Stephen, have you heard about stagflation? That's what they're calling our economy right now because of the 5.3% inflation rate and 6% unemployment rate. According to this article, stagflation occurs when the economy is suffering from inflation and the stagnation of industrial growth.
Well, I just hope the inflation goes down. Money doesn't grow on bushes, you know.
It's money doesn't grow on trees, Ziva. Sorry, boss. I was just getting a little Elvis Presley time dog going. You know, stepping into it.
Hey, is there a Mr. Gibbs here?
Yes, it's him right there.
Mr. Gibbs, my boyfriend was murdered, and I think I know who murdered him.
Gibbs, I found a case file for Lieutenant James Gibbs.
And you speak me to know who that is?
It's the boyfriend of that feminist babe that came in earlier.
Can we let someone who actually knows about the case speak?
Yes, I agree. Please proceed, Ziva.
Shut up, Proby.
Lieutenant James Dewey was an National Guard veteran who retired after the Penn State massacre.
He then goes into the oil business, and soon after, he was murdered. Case was left unsolved, boss.
Do we have any suspects?
No suspects, no leads.
Okay, so that means the girlfriend is how we got. Get him into the interrogation room.
I'll take that one, boss.
Actually, you will. My deep witness.
Gladly. What do you have for us?
Well, my boyfriend James Dewey and I met while we were in the National Guard. He was the best in his unit. It was the 50th anniversary of the passing of the 19th Amendment, and I was striking the women's strike for equality, and he was trying to get me off the street. I wouldn't move, so he carried me all the way there.
Women's liberation now! Sisterhood is powerful! Join us now! Sisterhood is powerful! Join us now! Sisterhood is powerful! Join us now!
I think that it is very, very important that all of us in this country today, regardless of our particular sex, realize that we've got to come together in order to make the Republic work for everyone, regardless of race, creed,
After the Kent State shooting, he left because he couldn't deal with the deaths. So he stayed away from weapons and he went into the oil business. But his old sergeant from the National Guard offered him another job at the White House.
What kind of job was it? And do you know anything about his boss?
He never told me exactly what the job was, but I do know that his boss would call him at all hours of the night, and he usually sounded pretty nervous and secretive when I asked him about the calls.
Do you think he killed Lieutenant Dewey?
Not initially, but I just suspected something after I found these letters. They're all in secret codes, and he seemed like the only one who would actually use codes to communicate with James.
Why didn't you present these earlier?
Well, I didn't find them till yesterday. I was moving because I just couldn't stay in our home anymore. But it took so long because of the inflation of the house prices, I just couldn't gather up enough money to buy a new place. But after I earned enough money, I found a place and I started packing. That's when I found the letters. They were in one of James' old filing cabinets, so nobody found it. I always wanted the authorities to reopen the case, but they always said there wasn't anything new, so there's no way they could do it. Well, now I have new evidence.
Thank you. We'll start decoding him right now.
Hey, Abby, what are you wearing?
An astronaut suit!
But why?
Because, didn't you hear? Today, the Pioneer Venus 2 sent 5 separate parts into Venus's atmosphere at 26,000 miles per hour. And then, before it disintegrated, it sent back scientific information about the climate, the chemical makeup of Venus, and the atmospheric conditions.
Okay, that's interesting now, Abby, but I need you to get to work, okay?
Okay.
So I need you to decode these letters that were given to our lieutenant, and
Okay.
here's a little something to keep you going, okay? Thank you, Abby. Henry David,
Yes, that's me.
we are NCIS, and we need to talk to you about the murder of Lieutenant Dewey.
Okay. Well, I served as sergeant for the National Guard, but he left after the Kent State situation. And a few years later, I got offered a job here at the White House.
What kind of job?
Well, it was just a job at the White House, really. We needed some more people and to help us, so I recommended Lieutenant Dewey because I knew he was a trustworthy soldier, and I knew he wasn't doing very well in his business, so I hired him here.
What kind of trouble?
Well, I know it had to do something with the OPEC oil embargo, and since his gas stations would have to limit the amount of gas they dispensed, and it had to be closed on certain days, and people would be buying the extremely high gas prices, I thought it would be the perfect time for him to get out of the business. So that's why.
Okay. I have contacts in Iran, and I'll ask them to help us with this investigation.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you for your information, and if anything, we'll contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Abby.
Oh, I didn't know you had a baby.
I don't. This is for the anniversary of the test tube baby.
I heard about that on the radio. I heard Dr. Edwards successfully implanted the first fertilized egg into a woman's womb.
Maggie, stop talking about that. Abby, what do you have for me?
Oh yeah! So, I decrypted the letters and I got really into it. And then I tried to figure out the code by myself. So then I was like really getting into it and I was trying to figure it out for myself. And then yeah. And then
Abby, what do you find out?
well, those letters, they're actually from Mario Savio. And he was threatening the lieutenant to resign from the National Guard. And he said that if he didn't retire, then he would take matters into his own hands. So, yeah. But then he just goes on and on about how corrupt the government is. And then, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Abby.
You're welcome.
Let's go. Inoso, what do you have for Mario Savio?
Oh, just get into that, boss. Mario Savio started the Berkeley free speech movement, and he gave many passionate speeches like "Put your bodies upon the gears." He's really suspicious of the government, especially since the FBI was tailing him for years. But after the Vietnam War ended, he wasn't as
I
active.
have asked for this radio and television time tonight for the purpose of announcing that we today have concluded an agreement to end the war and bring peace with honor in Vietnam and in Southeast Asia. The following statement is being issued at this moment in Washington and Hanoi. At 12:30 Paris time today, January 23, 1973, the agreement on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam was initialed by Dr. Henry Kissinger on behalf of the United States and Special Advisor Lee Duc-Tho on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. Will continue to recognize the government of the Republic of Vietnam as the sole legitimate government of South Vietnam. We shall continue to aid South Vietnam within the terms of the agreement, and we shall support efforts by the people of South Vietnam to settle their problems peacefully among themselves. We must recognize that ending the war is only the first step toward building the peace. All parties must now see to it that this is a peace that lasts and also a peace that heals. And a peace that not only ends the war in Southeast Asia, but contributes to the prospects of peace in the whole world.
I found out on my new Microsoft computer, which has an 8086 16-bit microprocessor, that Mario Savio now owns the law, a disco club.
You're such a nerd.
Okay.
Are you Marco Savio?
Yes, don't wear it out.
Do you remember Lieutenant James Dewey?
Pero like, who's that?
Well, you wrote him letters 9 years ago, threatening him to leave the National Guard after Kent State. Do you remember him? He's dead, Mario.
He probably deserved it. It's About time those government cheese weasels had it coming to them.
Hey man, I've got a city. Peace, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna buzz off too.
Not so fast, brother. You're coming with us. Okay, do you know why you're here?
No, I know you are investigating the murder of Lieutenant Dewey, but I don't understand why you're making me come to this gig.
Well, shouldn't you know about this? You guys were really close. You even sent him a bunch of these letters.
Where are you going with all these?
Okay, I'll be clear. I want to know why you constantly threatened the lieutenant's life, and if your intentions were actually truly serious to kill him.
What? Dream on! I didn't kill Dewey. Listen, I'll give you the skinny on the situation.
I'm listening.
My personal problem with the lieutenant was only that he killed one of my brothers at Kent State. My friend and I were part of the protest at Kent State, and although I understand that somehow it was his job to maintain control, at the time I didn't think of it like that. All I wanted was revenge. As a result, I contacted him through the letters. These letters, it's true that I didn't threaten him, but it was only to make him resign, and once the Vietnam War was over, I planned to leave this alone.
What did he do after he resigned?
After the Vietnam War ended and our cause didn't have any purpose anymore, our group disintegrated, and many members just faded away. I just retired and transferred to the disco, and that's where you found me.
So you don't know anything about the lieutenant's assassination?
I'm outie.
Not so fast. Are you sure you don't know anything?
I don't know jack squat. I'm just going to say this once, and it's up to you to investigate the rest. In the disco, one hears many rumors.
What kind of rumors?
I'm not sure. All I can say is that there's a jive turkey in the disco who used to work for the government, and right now, I'm just worried about the situation because I don't know what kind of jobs he used to be part of. You never know what to expect about the governmental people.
Who's the man?
His name is Oscar Vahid.
Boss, so I found out that Mario Savio had nothing against Lieutenant Dewey after he resigned. So I think we have a new suspect.
Oh, really? Well, who is it?
His name is Oscar Vahid. He's a friend of Mario Savio. Mario was saying how this guy was working for the government at one point, but then he left him. There's just something not right about this guy, boss.
Oscar Vahid? I know him. Well, I know someone who knows him. I was calling my contacts in Iran, and they were telling me how there was this guy who grew up with them, but then he got offered a new job in the U.S. by some important figure. He came back right before the Shah was taken to America. When he was in Iran, he was involved in the kidnapping of 52 American ambassadors. Then he came back to America, and that's all I know about him.
Okay.
We have questions concerning the murder of Lieutenant Dewey.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We saw you the other day at the bar with Mario Savio. How did you meet him?
I went to Iran to work on some business. When I came back, I met Mario and we became good friends.
We have information that you were involved in the Iranian hostage crisis when you were in Iran.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This picture tells it all. This flag was apparently taken from someone's office inside the United States Embassy. It was burned Tuesday evening outside the embassy's gates. To the Iranian demonstrators who set fire to it, this was a symbol of victory. 2 days earlier, several hundred young people, mainly students at Tehran University, had taken over the embassy. We are not occupiers, they said. We have thrown out the occupiers. But instead of chasing all the Americans out of the compound, the Iranians imprisoned them in a building somewhere on these grounds. They have been hostages ever since.
We have the suspicion that you were involved in the overtaking of the American embassy and the holding of 52 Americans.
That is not true. I had just come back from the U.S. when that happened. I don't want to be a part of it. That's when I realized that every government is corrupt.
What kind of business were you involved when you were there, yes?
I really regret doing what I did. I should have known better.
What are you talking about?
President Nixon sent a government official to Iran to hire a hitman. Nixon had a hit list, and he wanted someone who would get rid of his enemies.
And you were that hitman?
I admit it. I was the hitman. I had to kill Lieutenant Dewey, because he was on Nixon's hit list. He knew too much, and Nixon was afraid he was going to talk.
Oscar Vahid, you're arrested for the murder of Lieutenant Dewey.
Oh, hi. Hi. Guess what? We found out who killed your boyfriend.
And I don't really know how you're going to take it, but don't worry, I'm here to comfort you.
Please come in.
You might want to sit down. evidence leads us to believe that the job that your boyfriend took with Mr. David at the White House was involved in the committee for the re-election of the president, also known as CREEP. Your boyfriend unknowingly signed to be a part of the Watergate scandal.
I always thought Mr. David was a bad man, but James wouldn't do something like this. That's the same reason that he left the National Guard all those years ago. And he must have been tricked.
That's the thing. We believe that he did not know the full extent of his position. But as he started getting more involved, he figured out what was going on.
Was he one of the men that broke into the Democrats' convention?
No, he figured it out before the actual act took place. But Nixon wasn't too happy to have a traitor on his hands.
Wait, you don't mean...
He does. President Nixon put your boyfriend on a hit list. He sent an Iranian hitman to kill your boyfriend.
So you're saying that my boyfriend was indirectly killed by the President of the United States?